Icebergs are a trend that has been taking the internet by storm for a while. This is because the premise is inherently interesting, and as a degenerate on the internet, I thought I would take a stab at this kind of video by combining it with my GOAT, Sonic the Hedgehog. Like it or not, you know about the Sonic franchise, and it has some surprisingly deep lore and facts. This video will give you a glimpse into the twisted world of Sonic the Hedgehog. If you somehow don't know what an iceberg is, it's a list of facts that start with the most common ones and end with some not so known facts. This specific list I used for the video was made by Redditor Cyborg Nuduru, so thank you for making this iceberg chart. Anyways, with all that out of the way, let's hop into the iceberg. Sonic.exe is an old internet creepypasta where a guy claims his friend gave him a Sonic game on a CD for his PC. When he installs it, it was called Sonic.exe, and the game seems normal but off. Eventually, when playing, you witness an evil demonic Sonic killing Tails, Knuckles, and Eggman, before a photorealistic image of the creepy Sonic flashes on screen, with text saying, "I am God." This legend spawned many fan games and art, and is just an iconic creepypasta like Jeff the Killer, Smiling Dog, and Ben Drowned. This game was going to be the next mainline Sonic game and be a system seller for the Sega Saturn. The problem is it got cancelled, and I'm glad it did. The game would have been one of the first 3D platformers ever, and boy can you tell. The camera is this weird fisheye lens, and the game just overall looks clunky and trash. The Sega Saturn ended up failing, and if this game released, it still would have failed. Sonic Adventure was a much better leap into 3D. One of the best Sonic games in the 2010s wasn't even made by Sega. Sonic Mania was a spiritual successor to the classic Sonic games and was developed by Christian Whitehead, Pagoda West Games, and Headcanon. Christian Whitehead was known for unofficially porting classic Sonic games to mobile devices. Headcanon were the ones that did the official classic Sonic ports, and it appears Pagoda West Games are frequent collaborators with Headcanon. It's pretty funny that the fan-produced Sonic game in 2017 did better than Sonic Forces, which were released the same year. In the first Sonic movie, there was a post-credit scene where Tails came out of a ring portal looking for Sonic. This was a great move as the movie barely had anything to do with Sonic, and this set up that more aspects of the games were coming to the big screen. Tails had the same voice he does in Sonic Movie 2, but has a slightly different design, but overall, it still looks like Tails. This was cool to see it in the theaters. This zone was originally planned to appear in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 as a secret zone where Sonic can learn how to become super, but it was scrapped due to time constraints. They brought this level back for Sonic 3 and Knuckles. This version is where the Master Emerald and Super Emeralds rested, so it was still important for the story, like it was originally intended. They later brought back the original version of this stage in a Sonic 2 port, and eventually Sonic Origins. This zone had a cool history, and I'm glad they brought back the original version. Michael Jackson and his producers were working on the Sonic 3 soundtrack, but for some reason it got left out of the credits and in later releases of the game. Music assumed to be from Michael Jackson were removed and replaced. We don't know why he was dropped, but it could be for many reasons. One being the alleged things with children he did, or the more plausible one that Jackson didn't like how the music sounded on the Genesis and dropped out of the project. This sucks because we got some peak music from Jackson, like Ice Cap Zone. Mighty and Ray are Sonic characters who fell into obscurity. They debuted in an arcade game called Sega Sonic the Hedgehog in 1993. Mighty later appeared in Knuckles Chaotix in 1995. Since then, the characters wouldn't appear in any official games, only getting limited appearances in the comics. They eventually came back for Sonic Mania's DLC and re-released as bonus characters. This was such a treat for the 7 fans of these guys clamoring for their return. Sonic would have made his Smash Bros. Appearance earlier if it wasn't due to time constraints, at least according to Yuji Naka, but there's no proof of this being the case. However, at the time of the release, Electronic Gaming Monthly published an April Fool's joke claiming that Sonic and Tails could be unlocked in the game by beating 20 enemies in Cruel Melee. This unlock criteria was insane, and I feel sorry for anyone who read this, somehow beat the challenge, and got nothing. Either way, Sonic later appeared in Smash Bros. Brawl, so we gotta go anyways. In April 2019, we got an official first look at the Sonic movie. The trailer began with Gangsta's Paradise playing until we saw him, the devil himself. Yeah, this first design was horrible, and the internet was quick to let Paramount and Sega know this. This trailer was trending, with everyone ever dogging on this design and asking for a new one. I remember seeing fan redesigns popping up all over the place. This movie was on track for failure, but then a miracle happened. Paramount announced the film was going to be delayed so they could redesign Sonic. This is crazy, as a redesign likely costed millions of dollars, but this made the reception to the movie flip. We got one look at the design in November 2019, and everyone loved it. Without this redesign, the series likely would have ended where it began, but nah, we got peak now. This is a hidden screen at Sonic CD that you unlock by entering a code into the game's sound test menu that you can access. When entered, a creepy picture of Mahjong Sonics with Japanese text that translates to "Fun is infinite with Sega Enterprises, Majin." Besides Sonic being creepy as hell, Majin in Japanese is often associated with demons or the devil, which makes this whole screen creepy. In Shadow the Hedgehog, there's an Easter egg where the gun soldiers would say, "Mr. Yuji Naka's alright," as a reference. This line makes sense as the story of Shadow involves an alien invasion with fights between them and humans. As for who Naka is, he was the lead programmer for Sonic 1 and is an important figure in the series as a whole, at least until he dipped. The TV show OK had a crossover with Sonic in Season 3. The episode involves Sonic and Tails pulling up to this dude's world because they saw an ad claiming they had the best chili dogs in the universe. KO nerds out until his ops pull up and kidnap his friends. The rest of the episode follows Sonic and Tails helping KO rescue them. Tails' doll was a secret unlockable character in Sonic R, an early 3D Sonic racing game. You unlock him by playing the Mystic Melody in Regal Ruin. This character is known for being extremely creepy, as it's a doll with the mysterious thingy on his head, and he happens to be alive. Whenever Tails' doll shows up, it's usually playing on this fact, depicting him as scary. There even is an entire creepypasta dedicated to this obscure character. Despite what many think, Sonic's first appearance wasn't in Sonic the Hedgehog. 5 months before the game released, Sonic showed up as a mirror decoration in the racing game Rad Mobile. This is a neat reference, but it is rather strange that this is Sonic's first appearance in a video game. It does make sense because Sonic goes fast, and cars go fast, so think about it. Bark the Polar Bear and Bean the Dynamite first appeared in Sonic the Fighters, a fighting game released in the 90s. Similar to Ray and Mighty, these fools quickly fell into the shadows and became more obscure characters in the series. They also really only appear in the comments and haven't been in a game since Sonic Fighters, so they are... For some reason, we have a section of our genetic code known as the Hedgehog Signaling Pathway. 2 genes in this set are called Sonic Hedgehog and Robotnikin. These cells play a crucial role in embryonic development and cell differentiation. What's funny is Robotnikin can stop Sonic Hedgehog's activity, so the naming makes sense. It's just crazy that Sonic plays a part in us existing, which is a sentence I didn't expect to say, ever. In the reveal trailer for Minecraft Steve and Smash Ultimate, it begins with some characters fighting until Sonic delivers a devastating blow to Mario, which sends him flying. He breaks through a wall and lands in a cave, where Minecraft Steve pulls up and joins the game. Basically, Sonic has the power to send you to Minecraft if he punches you hard enough. This guy might be a god or some magical entity for real. Since the original trailer with the ugly Sonic design came out like 6 months before the original release date, there was some merch of this design being made and even produced. There were things like posters, costumes, and other promotional items made, meaning not only did this redesign affect Paramount, but it also affected companies producing merch. So this was a risky move that I'm glad actually paid off, as now Sonic is bigger than ever. Honestly, I spent a while looking for what this could mean, but the closest thing I found is that the skyboxes in this game looked really good, like they could be pictures from real life, and I mean they do. For a game released in 1999, these skyboxes look amazing. Parts of the original Sonic movie trailer have earlier test footage found online, and some of these ended up leaking before the trailer's release, so some people were able to see this ugly design before it was officially revealed. I think many wrote it off and hoped the real design wouldn't be all gross, but no, it was. As many of you know, the only characters that show up in Sonic Unleashed are Sonic, Tails, and Amy. This was the beginning of the era where Sega wanted to forget all of Sonic's friends and go back to basics. However, Shadow and Knuckles were originally planned to make an appearance in Sonic Unleashed. This would have been cool and would have made sense because Dark Gaia was a world-ending threat, but their absence doesn't make the game any worse, so I don't mind that they were scrapped. During a trailer showing off the anime Sonic.exe in development, there was a frame with a silver hedgehog which was meant to be an early Supersonic design. Fans saw this and dubbed this character Nazo, which means mystery in Japanese. The character became popular enough to be the main villain in the fan-animated series called Sonic, Nazo Unleashed by Chakra-X. This is one of the most popular animations for Sonic, and it's really cool, especially since it was fan-made. I remember watching this in like 2014 thinking this shit was badass. I mean, look at this. Anyways, if this seems interesting, I would go check it out on YouTube. The song Tripod Baby by Inflow was included in advertisements for Shadow the Hedgehog. This is kinda strange since this is a hip hop group and the song sounds fun and lighthearted, which doesn't fit for Shadow. But it's a neat piece of trivia and this song is low-key catchy. Nothing I'm adding to my playlist, but it was alright to have playing while writing this script. An unused audio file in Shadow the Hedgehog had the titular character smoking, which is really odd for a Sonic character. But if any game would have smoking in it, it would be Shadow the Hedgehog. The game was made to be dark and more mature, including guns, and the ability to kill people, so smoking would not have been the craziest part of this game. For some reason in 2017, there aired a commercial for Sonic, where it had an Animal Planet sounding narrator asking how a hedgehog can be a real animal and the fastest thing alive. And overall, this is a good piece of marketing, as the premise is entertaining and funny. The ad ends with a link for the official Sonic YouTube channel, in case you doubted this was official. In the infamous fake leak for Smash Bros. Ultimate, where the mural was shown with 7 new characters, one of the new characters on the mural happened to be Shadow the Hedgehog. If this leak was true, Shadow would have probably been an Echo Fighter, but come on Sakurai, we need more Sonic representation in Smash. And fix his damn moveset, you spend half the time in a ball. In July of 2016, Sega hosted a live stream for Sonic's 25th anniversary, including live music, fan events, and some reveals for upcoming Sonic games like Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces. What was strange is the stream was sponsored by Totino's. Yes, the pizza roll guys. This doesn't make too much sense, but hey, Sega got that bag for real. What made this kind of funny is that the stream had horrible quality, so people probably got annoyed when their logo would pop up during scene transitions. Many fans theorized that Sonic was a late addition to Super Smash Bros. Brawl. This is because he was one of the last fighters revealed, and because he didn't show up in the game's campaign Subspace Emissary until the very end, where he shows up and hits the butterfly guy. This probably is true and explains his subpar moveset where you're in a ball 90% of the time. It's kind of unfortunate that it never got fixed, but oh well. In Sonic the Hedgehog 2, if you go into debug mode and begin placing waterfalls in a specific pattern, the color palette for Sonic would glitch and make him appear green and black. As shown with Nazo, the Sonic fans have a knack for taking glitches in random frames and turning them into characters. This specific glitch design is named Ashura the Hedgehog, with plenty of fan art and unofficial origin stories floating around the internet. You gotta admit, some Sonic fans are creative, even if it gets used in the wrong way. In Hydrocity Act 1 from Sonic Mania, you can enter Donkey mode, where some sound effects get replaced with ones from video game Donkey, a popular gaming YouTuber who makes some pretty funny videos. I guess the people developing Sonic Mania were pretty big fans. This is a cool Easter egg, and I'm glad Sega was willing to have it in the game, until it got patched out. Honey the Cat was a character that was supposed to be introduced in Sonic the Fighters as a fighter, but she was scrapped for some reason. However, this wasn't the end of her story. In 2012, the game was re-released and Honey was finally realized as a fighter. Similar to other characters on the list, she just became a niche character, which is unfortunate. In the early 2000s, skateboarding games were becoming very popular with titles like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Vision Scope Interactive proposed that Sonic should have his own skateboarding game, so they proceeded to make a prototype featuring Sonic and Shadow on hoverboards in Green Hill Zone. The game would have had 3 modes: collecting items, racing, and fighting others. This game would have been cool, but writers did this concept better, so I'm not pressed this never made it past a prototype. In 2001, to promote Sonic Adventure 2, Sega released a line of plushes featuring Sonic, Tails, Shadow, Rouge, and a Hero Chow. The Sonic plush happened to feature his iconic soap shoes. Since this game was the only time he wore these shoes, this plush slowly began to get more and more rare. It's almost impossible to find listings of it online, and when they do, it costs a damn arm and a leg. This is a really high quality plush that captures Sonic's design very well, so I understand why many want it in their collection. When Sega was trying to decide what the hell Sonic was going to be, they went through many stories and characters that could have been in the game. One character that was never realized was a love interest for Sonic. Thing is, she was a human named Madonna, so I'm glad this was scrapped. She reminds me of Lady from Donkey Kong with blonde hair and a red dress. Obviously, a hedgehog having a human love interest is weird as hell, and the backlash was proven with Princess Elise in Sonic 06. When trying to design a character that could compete with Mario, Sega tried many different ideas. One of them was a rabbit named Phil. He would have been the mascot of Sega. Like Sonic, he would have moved really fast, but one unique thing is he would use his ears to grab and throw shit at enemies, which would be pretty funny. The character is alright, but Sonic is much better. Despite being a scrapped concept, he was added in Sonic comics and was even a costume for Sonic and Sonic Superstars. So I guess he has that going for him. Before landing on Shadow the Hedgehog, Sega went through many designs and concepts. One was a character named Terios. He was all black with red shoes and he had a scar on his eye, which is a cool idea. However, Sega wasn't satisfied and kept making designs until they landed on Shadow. Eventually, in Sonic.exe Shadow Generation, Sega released a Terios costume for Shadow. Knuckles Chaotix was one weird game. The game introduced two robots named Heavy and Bomb. They were creations of Eggman's until allegedly they fled him to help Knuckles take him down. However, many theorized they were double agents and were actually trying to slow Knuckles down. No matter what, these characters fell into obscurity, so I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a fan of these bozos. Scratch and Grounder are miles better. This man is a menace for real. Ken Penders was the writer for Sonic Archie comics for a while. During his time penning the series, he created many characters that were at the time a big part of Sonic's lore, including Sonic's parents. Eventually, he left the series and was replaced by Ian Flynn. Now this next part is the reason why this guy is a joke to the fan base. When he left, he abused a legal loophole where he technically owned all the characters he made for the comics. So this guy was able to retain the rights and decided to make his own comics featuring them. This series was called the Laura Sue Chronicles. The titular character in the Sonic comics was Knuckles' daughter. This whole series was a mess with convoluted stories and some frankly horrible art. I mean, look at this shit. Sonic Crackers was a prototype for the Sega Mega Drive. This was an early engine test featuring multiple game engines that could be swapped out on the fly. The game mechanics were reused despite the game never getting made. It featured Sonic tethered to Tails via rings, and this feature was borrowed and was used in Knuckles Chaotix. So eventually we did get this game, just with a new name and different characters. In the PC release of Sonic 3D Blast, it's possible to access the debug mode while playing. In the game, if you hold the M key and press escape, you will gain access to this mode. Essentially, you can change the refresh rate, load custom saves, and introduce the ability to enable motion smoothing to make the gameplay feel better. This was likely just to look for bugs, but the developers left it in the game, so now you can fuck with it. The popular voice clip of Eggman saying Pingus in the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog was referenced in the Sonic Boom show. In this scene, he traps Sonic, Tails, and Amy inside a net, and then says, "Ah, Sonic the Hedgehog, snooping as usual, I see," which is the voice line that Pingus was born from. Snooping as usual. In an early concept, Sonic was going to be in a band featuring a monkey, chicken, rabbit, and Vector the fucking crocodile. Yeah, Vector was thought of before iconic characters like Tails, Knuckles, Shadow, and many more. It's just crazy to think that Vector predates the release of Sonic 1, even though he didn't officially show up until Knuckles Chaotix, and then was rebooted in Sonic Heroes. This is a cool piece of Vector trivia, but I'm sorry, I have to say it. SBO is the best Chaotix member for sure. In the 8-bit version of Sonic 2, you are tasked with saving Tails. If you beat the game without getting all the Chaos Emeralds, it shows Sonic running alone until a constellation of Tails appears. Sonic stops and stares at it. While not confirming his death, many fans theorize that he died and Sonic was unable to save him, which is pretty dark. In Sega World Kadoma, they had a giant Sonic statue up until it closed. The statue then popped up near a road in Japan, near a forest. It stood there for years and then aged due to sun exposure and weather conditions. Then randomly in the mid-2020s, Sega went out to this road and fixed up the statue, making it look brand new. It's really cool that they did this considering it really had no benefit to them at all. Hard Times was a song made by the band The Jetsons, which was rewritten for Sonic the Hedgehog 3's Ice Cap Zone. Ice Cap Zone has a great song to accompany it, but due to legal issues, they had to replace many songs in Sonic 3, including this one. Hard Times wasn't officially released until 2020, where it was a limited release on vinyl. What's funny is that the album art is the background to Ice Cap Zone, as a reference to it getting used in the game. This entry was hard for me to find any information on, but I assume this means that the Shadow 05 game was going to have sequels, but probably due to the harsh criticism, Sega canned that idea. I mean, it took 20 years for the main villain of the game to appear again in the series, so this makes sense. The songs Broken and Who Am I were unused songs intended to be in Shadow 05. Who Am I is assumed to be planned for the boss fight against Devil Doom due to its lyrics. As for Broken, we do know it's intended to be used for the semi-hero ending, but it was ultimately replaced. Simon Y refers to the person who discovered a Sonic the Hedgehog 2 prototype build. He found this prototype on the Chinese GeoCities site and then proceeded to share it online. The origins of this prototype were revealed by Yuji Naka. Apparently this build was from a stolen cartridge at a toy show in New York. Finding old builds of games are important as it could teach us how games were developed or showcase some scrapped ideas. Either way, I'm glad this prototype was found. On the Wii version of Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, there is stolen fan art of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic's sister from Sonic Underground. An artist used a placeholder image of this fan art, assuming it was official. Sega found out before release and removed it everywhere besides the Wii version, in which they left it in by mistake. When the artist found out about this, Sega reached out and apologized to them. If you use Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles' lock-on feature to play Sonic 1 and 2, you gain access to procedurally generated blue sphere levels. Since the generation is random, that means there are technically 134,217,728 unique stages. While not quite infinite, no one is going to play them all. This is just a cool fact about this niche feature. The first reveal of Sonic the Hedgehog was in June 1990 at the Tokyo Toy Show. The prototype was thrown together featuring a playable Sonic and an early version of Green Hill Zone. What was unique about this prototype is that this build is more technically advanced than the final version, with 7 layers of parallax scrolling, whatever that means, and more foreground details that weren't part of the background. In Japan, Sega had a kiddie ride line of games, and one of them was Waku Waku Sonic Patrol. This was one of the first Sonic spin-offs and even featured voice acting. The premise of the game was that Sonic was a police officer patrolling the streets for Eggman. Being an early spin-off is what makes this game interesting. Sega was working on a Sonic game that was set in the continuity of the Sonic animated show known as Sonic Sat AM. The game was called Sonic.exe in development. They eventually made a prototype and pitched it to Sega, but the gameplay was really slow, which led to this game being cancelled. It's interesting to think of what would have happened to the series and its lore if this continuity showed up in the games. Every once in a while, Sega hosts a pop-up cafe for Sonic. They call it the Sonic the Hedgehog Speed Cafe. All the decor is based on the series, with character standees, themed food, and even Sonic games that people could play. You also can buy merch for the series as well. This pop-up only opened in specific locations, making it a rare but fun experience. This entry is about a weird fact of Blaze the cat. In the Japanese game manual for Sonic.exe, it claims that Blaze is self-conscious about her bust size. Yeah, that's a weird detail to include when talking about an anthropomorphic cat who is 14 years old, may I add. What? What the fuck? Makes sense why this only appeared in Japan's manual. Sonic and the Secret Rings and Sonic and the Black Knight are the 2 Storybook series games released for the Nintendo Wii. This series was panned for poor controls, but many fans find the good in these games, especially Black Knight. Anyways, Sega was planning to make a 3rd game in the series. They released a poll asking fans what they wanted to see for the theme for this game. This poll had options like a Wild West, a haunted house, and more. Greek mythology went on to win the poll, but we never heard anything else about this game. I assume Sega saw the feedback and decided to stop making this game to focus on games like Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations. It would have been cool to see what a 3rd game would look like, but I'm not losing any sleep over its cancellation. R2 was an unused stage in Sonic CD that was supposed to be the 2nd stage. An early name was Dubious Depths, and it was based around ruins with underground sections and features big fans and platforms that would swing. This stage was cut because it didn't meet Sega's standard of quality for the game. I like how they were willing to cut an entire stage because they didn't see it as good enough. If only they had this mindset all the time. When trying to figure out Sonic's personality, Sega looked into some strange places. One was former President Bill Clinton and his get-it-done attitude. Basically, Americans saw him as someone who would complete anything he started, and Sega took this trait as inspiration for Sonic. Who knows, maybe Sonic will have a game where he runs for president. Hopefully there are no scandals. Sonic Paradox is a YouTube channel known for Sonic fan animations. In 2014, the channel was hacked, and the owners lost control over the channel. They tried to work with Google to recover it, but they were no help at all. They then worked with their YouTube partner for months, and eventually were able to get the channel back. In 1996, Sega released an educational Sonic game known as Sonic Schoolhouse. This game is known for having really shitty 90s PC graphics. Fast forward to 2018, there was a mid-horror game released called Baldi's Basics. This game was set in a school where you had to avoid Baldi. The game's graphics pay homage to 90s Windows games, and specifically was based on the graphics for Sonic Schoolhouse. This is a joke entry, I'm assuming. Snapcube is a group that dubs over video games with an improvised comedic style. They did do dubs for Sonic games, which is what this entry is referencing. When Sega was planning development for Sonic.exe, they planned on releasing the game for all the current gen systems, being the Xbox 360, PS3, and Nintendo Wii. When they got the dev kit for the Wii, they realized the system's power was a lot less than other systems. They attempted to make an SD port of the game, but it was not able to run what they wanted to feature in the game. This led to Sega splitting Sonic Team in half to work on an original game for the Wii. This is one of many reasons why Sonic.exe ended up being the infamous garbage game it is. In 2012, Sony made a game that was their answer to Nintendo's Super Smash Bros. Series. This game featured PlayStation icons like Nathan Drake and Kratos. It's rumored that during development they were going to add Shadow the Hedgehog to the game, but there is no concrete proof of this. Honestly, I would have been annoyed if they put Shadow in this game while not adding him to Smash. Apparently he was scrapped and hasn't appeared in either series since. Before Sonic the Hedgehog was released and became Sega's mascot, Alex Kidd filled that role. Alex Kidd had multiple appearances and his own platformers, but the success of Sonic and his popularity effectively killed the series, as he was set aside to focus on Sonic. While developing Sonic Extreme for the Saturn, Sega wanted to include multiple playable characters, and one of them was a Minx cat named Princess Tiara, also known as Tira Bubowski. Yeah, weird name. Anyways, they cut these characters to focus on Sonic before the game was cancelled. This was low-key a blessing for the series. When designing Knuckles, apparently there was going to be a brand deal between Sega and Nike where Knuckles would have the Nike logo on his chest. This would have been some disgusting product placement and would make Knuckles a walking billboard. The plans eventually fell through and Knuckles' chest emblem was changed to a round crescent instead of the swoosh. There is no source that supports this, but it's commonly accepted as a fact. When Sonic Lost World's PC port was launching, Sega had a party in London to celebrate its launch. Originally, it was invite only, but Sega got rid of that restriction and invited all Sonic fans. They had a bar at this event for fans to drink, and many got drunk, which is pretty funny for a Sonic game launch party. Popful Mail was a PC RPG game developed by Nihon Falcom in 1991. Sega partnered with Nihon to form Sega Falcom. Together they would remake games developed by them, and one of them was going to be a remake of Popful Mail, but instead of the original series, they were going to be replaced by Sonic characters. The main one being Sister Sonic, a relative to Sonic. The game was going to be called Sister Sonic, however, Sega received angry letters from fans calling this stupid. Which is true. Why would they do this? I'm glad they didn't move forward with this. On February 9th, 2016, the official Sonic the Hedgehog Twitter made a tweet saying, "The key lies with Mania. Good luck," with an image of a Sonic silhouette. Mania is a French DJ known for making music, so this tweet led many to wonder if he was composing music for Sonic. As far as I know, nothing came from this tweet, and I don't have any idea why. I'm not familiar with Mania either, so this is a nothing burger for me. Sega released a 3D action fighter known as the Fighters Megamix. This had gameplay like Virtua Fighter and Viper Fighters, even including every character from both games. This game was developed by AM2, who are credited with creating the only two Sonic characters that appear in the game, Bark the Polar Bear and Bean the Dynamite. It's pretty interesting that they included these two instead of, Sonic, or even someone like Knuckles who has gloves. Genocide City Zone, also known as Cyber City Zone, was a scrap zone planned to be included in Sonic 2. The zone would have had an industrial theme with some underwater parts. Basically, it would have been a sequel to Scrap Brain Zone from the first game. I feel like this zone only really gets talked about because of its name. Genocide City just sounds batshit. I guess it also appeared in the zone list of the Simon Y build of Sonic 2, but it wasn't playable. Before the Sonic.exe anime ended, it's likely that the next big arc would have been a Sonic.06 arc. The first big arcs were based on Adventure and Adventure 2, and I feel 06 would be the next logical arc. A Heroes arc would have been cool, but that would have been hard to adapt to TV, so 06 would have been next. This may have been the darkest arc if it came to fruition. I mean, Sonic fucking dies in Sonic.06. I'm pretty sure this is another joke entry, but Sonic might be Silver's father. I mean, they both are really powerful hedgehogs, but that's the only thing that could relate them. We never found out who Silver's parents are, and they probably aren't someone we know, as Silver comes from 200 plus years in the future. This would have been pretty funny though, since that means Silver set out to kill his dad. Sega Sonic Bros. Was one of the earliest spin-offs in development for the series. It ended up being cancelled, but was planned to release 1 year after the first Sonic game. The game would have featured 3 Sonics, the original and a red and yellow variant. This game was planned to be a puzzle game. At the end of the day, the only interesting part would have been who the hell these other Sonics were, but I'm glad it was cancelled so we could get some awesome characters like Tails and Knuckles instead. To build on the earlier entry of Sonic and Radmobile being his first appearance, his first game role was as an enemy in The Adventures of Quick and Silva, which was a game released for the Amiga and Atari ST. This game has nothing to do with Sega, so I'm kind of stumped on how Sonic is an enemy in it, but seeing as this is my first time hearing about the game, I guess it wasn't a big enough deal to Sega. When making new characters and worlds, it's common for companies to make a Bible which houses the origins of the characters and rules in the world. When bringing Sonic to the US, Sega of America didn't really have any reference to the story or anything from Japan, so they created their own Bible. This included things like Robotnik's origin story, where he used to be a kind scientist called Opie Kintobar, until he turned evil in a lab accident. Yeah, this shit's pretty stupid. It also referenced Mobius, the name for the planet Sonic lived on. I'm glad Sonic's story was changed to be more in line with Japan, as I never really liked the US's interpretation with things like Mobius or the Freedom Fighters. Kobanomani456 was a gaming YouTuber from the early 2010s, mostly known for his Sonic content on the games and mods for them. I remember watching him constantly until I grew out of watching gameplays. Anyways, he stopped uploading gaming content in 2018, and unfortunately he has been dealing with some challenging mental health issues, which led him to quit the content, and this is just sad to see. His online presence went from gaming to rants on people and things going on in his personal life. He definitely has gotten better, but he is still on the road to recovery. I'm hoping he can fully recover someday, as mental health issues are sad to watch unfold. This for sure is a joke entry, or is it? The iconic character Sonichu is actually canon. In Sonic Adventure 1, when Sonic went super, he accidentally bumped into a Pikachu, which caused it to mutate and take on a more Sonic-like appearance. Sonichu would leave the area and find his girlfriend Rosechu. Together they would go on crazy adventures in the Sonic universe. Despite never showing up in the games, he is the reason for everything in Sonic. This is confirmed by my uncle who works at Sega and Pokemon. I can't find much on this entry, but I did find mentions of a landfill in a debate between E.T. for the Atari or Sonic.exe being the worst video game. Apparently E.T. was so bad that the extra copies were thrown in a landfill since they couldn't be sold, this being one of the many reasons for the video game crash of 1983. As for Sonic.exe, it sold well enough to become a platinum hits title on Xbox 360. But these are just opinions. Even though E.T. is horrible, I don't think you could find a concrete worst game ever because someone has to be a fan of something. Lock-on technology was introduced for Sonic and Knuckles as a way to combine it with other games, but mostly for Sonic 3, so you could get the full game known as Sonic 3 and Knuckles. This was a creative gimmick, but the reason it exists is because Sega didn't have enough time to finish Sonic 3 and Knuckles for a deadline, so they only released part of it. The rest of the game was finished and then released as a lock-on game, so this creative gimmick was only made because Sega needed the game out by a certain deadline, which worked for this game, but in the future would cause many problems. Scott the Woz is one of the scratch that. He is the best YouTuber. It's a running joke on his channel that he refuses to believe Sonic Spinball exists. This mostly appeared in videos on the Sonic Genesis games, but it's just a joke that's so stupid it's funny. The whole arc ends when he goes outside for once and sees a billboard that says Sonic Spinball exists, and he starts tweaking after seeing it. I have nothing on this, so here's a picture of Knuckles and another picture of a donut. I hope you enjoy this high quality content because I enjoy this. You know what? Here's a picture of Knuckles and a donut. Yeah, groundbreaking shit right here. There was going to be a trilogy of Sonic movies, and the first one would have released in 1995. They were going to be live action, which would have been interesting to say the least. The story follows, and I'm not making this up, a drug-addicted teenager named Jimmy Hedgeman. Jimmy fucking Hedgeman. Jimmy fucking Hedgeman. His father was a scientist who got kidnapped, and Jimmy Hedgeman has to go save him. For some reason, this movie would have him change forms to Sonic the Hedgehog, because one of my favorite traits of Sonic is his rampant drug addiction. This movie seems laughable, and it would have probably killed Sonic if it was actually made, so we dodged a bullet. Sonic Dreams Collection is a collection of 4 Sonic-themed minigames. They are meant to be cancelled Sonic games from the late 90s, but this isn't true. It's just something to add to the fake lore, which isn't that bad. Or is it? Anyways, they start off with the Sonic character creator with nothing wrong. Then you have an MMO where you feed Eggman to make him grow. Yeah, that's weird. The next one is where you make a short 6-second film in multiple locations, and by the end it just gets weird and dark. The last one is a VR game where Eggman tells you to get freaky with Sonic until you get sucked into a black hole. You then appear in the distorted Green Hill Zone, where you slowly turn into a realistic headless Sonic. The game seems to be normal until the previously mentioned creepy and weird shit happens. This game is supposed to represent the Sonic fandom at the time, and sadly, I could say it's accurate for a select few individuals. Geth is a ROM hack of classic Sonic games featuring the GOAT, an OC that is an egg with bunny ears who is apparently faster than Sonic. So this fine specimen is the true fastest thing alive. His most famous appearance is in Ant Dude Sonic ROM hack series. This guy is pretty cool because, like I said, he's an egg who is alive. What more could you want? I also want to note he has a brother named Meth, and that's pretty rad. Guess what? My rambling is still going to continue because we have some bonus entries. Basically, the backstory is that I was working on a different Sonic Iceberg, but that would have been way too long to work on, and this video is already like way too long. So anyways, let's get into some bonus entries. Sonic is an old meme that is a crude drawing of Sonic, where since it's so bad, he doesn't even deserve the Sonic name. This meme got so big, they had a reference to it in the first Sonic movie with some old head claiming he saw Sonic and drew him. This constantly gets referenced on Sonic's social media and is a recurring meme with Sonic fans. This is a meme that came around in 2016 and depicts Knuckles with a stereotypical Ugandan accent where he does tongue clicks and says, "Do you know the way?" He was a troll character and then got a lot of use in a game called VR Chat where you just talk to random people using a custom avatar. This meme is low-key racist and fell out of popularity as soon as it arrived. This guy is a joke Sonic OC making fun of the premise in general. You get a super edgy hedgehog who likes 9-inch nails, killing, and just overall dark things. Just reading his bio is goofy. This is Cold Steel the Hedgehog. Cold Steel was born with a special power. He was stronger than all his classmates in the Sonic Fighting Academy. He served in the Sonic military fighting Shadow, and the final battle against Shadow, they were fighting, and Shadow turned him to the darkness, and Cold Steel turned against Sonic and killed him. He lost a part of his ear in the battle, which is why he doesn't have a part of his ear. Please stop PMing me why, that's why. Also, earrings aren't girly. Fuck you, Chaos Kid 663. Everyone knows you're a freaking Pokemon guy. This entry could be an entire iceberg of its own. Anyways, Chris Chan is an internet lolcow known for creating Sonichu, a Sonic Pikachu hybrid. Sonichu is the main character of his webcomic series. Chris Chan is an interesting individual with many controversies that end up with some illegal and questionable shit. Chris Chan is truly a character. Sammy Classic Sonic Fan is a notorious YouTuber known for his over-the-top videos where he quite literally screams about Sonic the Hedgehog in Nintendo games. He is known for being passionate about Sonic and has some strong takes. Many who've seen his videos see all Sonic fans as this, which is unfortunate. This is an ongoing webcomic series that is just so stupid that it's low-key funny. The premise is that Tails gets trolled by these random dudes. He then goes back to Sonic to have him help stop them, and it doesn't work. Sonic ended up getting trolled as well. Tails then gets Shadow, and he just kills them. Now the trolls are getting sent after them for revenge. This shit is just so stupid, but rage baiting is funny. Crush 40 is a band notorious with Sonic fans as they make many great songs for the series. Whether it's their debut in Sonic Adventure, Live and Learn, All Hail Shadow, or Night of the Wind, Crush 40 makes some bangers for real. This company is known for writing articles and reviews centered around gaming, and they have had a notorious beef with Sonic in the past. Despite most of the internet praising Sonic games that aren't, bad, IGN just assumes if it's Sonic, it's ass and they give it bad reviews. They changed from this viewpoint recently, but it was still some generational hating. The main villain of Sonic CD is Metal Sonic. This guy's cool as hell as he can match Sonic's speed and he can copy him. It's strange that Eggman was able to build this though, isn't it? Some fans think Metal Sonic is Sonic from one of the bad features in the game, where he failed and Eggman turned him into a robot. This theory sounds cool, but no. Eggman just cooked with this robot one time and became a joke afterwards. Sonic CD was originally going to be a Sonic 1 remake for the Sega CD with new music and better graphics. However, the team came up with too many new ideas and decided it had to be a new game. Some of the zones are similar in idea, but the designs of the future and past gimmicks made them end up completely different. Overall, we got a decent classic Sonic game, so I'm glad they shed the remake skin. It's often theorized that the original Sonic design for the movie was intentionally made bad for publicity. Basically, the internet would freak out, then Paramount would change the design and win over the fans and moviegoers. The only problem with this fact is that toys and promotional renders were made for ugly Sonic. On top of that, they spent millions on both Sonic models and even had to delay the film. This results in loss of money, which executives would never let happen. The ending of Sonic Adventure 2 saw Shadow falling to Earth from space, and it's implied that he died. Sega did intend for Shadow to stay dead, but the fans quickly fell in love with this character, leading to him returning in Sonic Heroes. They had a storyline in which there were Shadow clones, and that the current Shadow we follow could be one of these clones. Eventually, we learned that this was the real Shadow, however. As many of you already know, Sonic Forces was a game. When it released, people realized that the levels were 2 seconds long, and the game was just horribly mediocre at worst. What was weird is that this was the first mainline game since Lost World in 2013. So this game had a 4-year development cycle? No, they just spent 2 years building the new Hedgehog engine too, meaning the last 2 years were actually devoted to making the game. The problem is that this included planning and designing everything, and most of the budget went into the new engine. Basically, they rushed the game out, and it's surprising it was playable. This references one of the most iconic Sonic glitches in history. In the best game ever made, Sonic.exe, Sonic has a boss fight against Silver, where every time Sonic gets attacked, Silver will say, "It's no use." What makes this memorable is you can get stuck against a wall, and Silver will keep attacking you saying his catchphrase. This will go on forever as you keep picking up your rings. The only way to get out is to pray that you get lucky and can move, or you shut the game off and look at your poor life decisions. Anyways, I spent way too long on this video, and now I'm cursed with knowledge on the Sonic franchise. If you enjoyed this iceberg, please let me know down below, along with any other videos you would like to see. Also, please consider liking and subscribing to help combat the evil YouTube algorithm, which might be more evil than the blackjack dealers. It's been Swimpy, and I appreciate you for watching this video. Goodbye.